Hi there, everyone. Time for part 2 of our bigger division lesson. So in this one, we're going to be taking those strategies that we learned in the first video, and we're going to be using them with bigger numbers so that we are prepared when those numbers get bigger and bigger on us. So hopefully you have a piece of paper ready to take some notes or your notes from last time to help refresh your memory so you could practice along with me as we go through these bigger division problems. All right, here we go. So a quick review here with the bigger division that we talked about last time is this term of a quotient. Woo, wrong button. Let's try that again. This term of a quotient. It's the answer to a division problem. So we're finding those quotients again today, those answers to division problems. And today they're going to be a little bit bigger. So let's take our first equation that we're going to look at today. And the first one that we want to use is 141 divided by 3. So if you think back to our bubble model or the picture model that we talked about last time, we want to draw the amount of bubbles that are shown in that second number. Those are the people that my cookies are being handed out to. And this time, man, my business must be getting popular. I've got 141 cookies to hand out to 3 people today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to draw my 3 people, and this time my bubbles are going to be a little bit bigger because I've got a bigger number to have to hand out. Okay, so I've got my 3 people. All right, so now same step as last time. I want to hand out some bigger chunks because if I sat here and handed out ones at a time until I got to 141, it would take me forever. So I want some shortcuts that'll make that go a little bit faster. So what you might start to do for this one is you might do what we did last time and you might start handing out 10s. And if you do that, if we count up as we go, 10, 20, 30, you might realize, man, I'm not getting very far very fast. Maybe I can count something bigger than 10s. And that is definitely something that you can do. And as your numbers get bigger, that's a strategy that you want to think about. So me knowing my math facts, I know that maybe I could go counting by my 20s and get a little bit closer. I'm going to see what that does for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do 20s. And I'm going to count out loud and keep track as I go. So 20, 40, 60. That's moving me a little bit faster, but I'm still like maybe halfway there. I'm barely even to 100 and I have to get to 140. So I might go ahead and I do 20s again and keep track of where I'm at. So far I've got 20, 40, 60. I'm going to keep going with that. 60, 80, 100, 120. Now that's more like it. It's getting me a lot closer. But if I think about it, so far I've got 120 so far with these 20s that I just handed out. And if I keep handing out 20s, it's going to be way too big. I don't have that much left over. So now what I might decide to do is I might do some mental math to figure out what I have left. Or I might just start handing out smaller numbers like 1s, 2s, or 5s to see how much more it takes me to get to 140. For me, I like to do the mental math when I get close so I can maybe do a math fact that hands it out faster. So if I have 141 and I said so far I've given out 120, I'm going to subtract those and find out what I have left over. So 1 minus 0 is 1, 4 minus 2 is 2, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So now I've got 21 left over. And if I know my math facts, I could hand out that exact amount on my next step. But if I'm not sure, I might go ahead and take another step. So I'm going to go ahead and think about, okay, 20s are too big. 30s are probably too big too because I'm at 120, but I could sure try that and find out what happens. So if I was at 120, 130, 140, 150, oops, 10s were too big. That was way too much. I went way too far because I went over my 141. So I'm going to go ahead and erase those 10s. And I'm going to go a little bit less than that. So I was kind of sort of close getting to 150. So maybe if I do 5s, that'll get me a little bit closer. So I'm going to try 5s instead. So this so far is 120. So 125, 30, 35. So now I'm at 35, 135, and I need to get to 141. I don't think I can do 5s again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to count by my 1s and see what I've got, okay? So I'm going to take my 1s, and I was at 35, so I'm going to go 36, 30, 37, 38, almost there, 39, 40, 41, Okay, so now I got to my 141, and my last step is to take one of the bubbles, doesn't matter which one, they should be the same, and add them up. So if I add my 20 plus 20 plus 5 plus 1 plus 1, or I can erase that and make that plus 2 if I want to put my ones together. I want to add this up and find out what my answer is. So if I put all of that together, I get an answer of 47. Okay, so that's how you could do that with your bubble or picture method, where you're handing out a little bit bigger chunks as you go so that it doesn't take you quite as long. Another way that you could do this one is with those math facts that we talked about, and I'll show you how you could do that with this bigger one. So we've got 141 divided by 3. So for this one, what we want to do is we want to start with that chunk, and you would think about it as maybe 3 times 10 to start with equals 30. And you might realize that's going to be really little. I'm going to have to do that a lot, but you could do that a lot. You could just do it again and again and again and see where it got you and add all of these up over here. But that might take you a while. So you might decide, just like we did with our bubble method, to go a little bit bigger to start with. So I might start with my 3 times 20, just like I did in my bubbles. So 3 times 20 gives me 60. You're correct. And then, just like I did with my bubbles, I might figure out, well, I can do another one of those actually. So I'm going to do another one of those and see where it gets me. So just like on the last one, I'm going to add these up and see where I'm at. So far, this gives me 120. And this gives me 40 of them so far. So I'm almost there. So 3 times 40 equals 120. Now what I might do, since I'm close, is I might do that mental math off to the side. So I might choose to do 141 minus 120. And like we know from before, it gave us 21 as an answer. So now I can do just like I did on the last time. And 3 times something is going to give me that last bit of 21, because this added up together is going to give me my final 100, oops, wrong color, is going to give me my final of 141. But I need to find out what this one is right here to give me that extra 21. So knowing my math facts, I know that 3 times 7 gives me 21. So I can fill in that blank with a 7. The last step I have to take is to add these two together. I had 40 of them first. 40 of them gave me 120. But now I've got another 7 of them to give me my last 21 cookies. So I'm going to put these two together to get my final answer of 47. Okay, each person can get 47. And if you look back, we got the same answer up here of 47. Okay, so we're going to do one more with an even bigger number. We're going to see how you do. You can try it along with me if you want, or watch another one and take notes. So this one's going to get a little bit bigger and a little bit messier. I'm excited. Here we go. Let's do 238 divided by 7. Okay, I'm going to do our bubble method first. So this number right here tells me how many bubbles I need to draw. So this time I have 7, but that's okay. It'll be pretty quick the faster I get at this strategy. So I'm going to take my 7 bubbles. So 1, actually I need to make that a little bit bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So now I've got 7 bubbles to fill. All right, so I can think about it just like I did on the last one. I could hand out 10s and realize that if I'm handing out 10s, that's only going to get me to 70, which isn't even close to 100. Well, it's kind of close to 100. I have to get over 200. So that's going to take me way too long. So I want to think of something bigger. So I might hand out 20s and see where that gets me. Or what you can start to think about doing too is you can start to look at these first chunks of numbers. Maybe you're noticing that these first 2 sets of numbers kind of give you a clue. Like, oh, I'm trying to get up to like 200 and something to make it closer for me. So maybe I divide up 7 into 23 or 230 and see what that would get me. Maybe I get somewhere close to that. So it doesn't work out super nicely, but I figure out that 23 divided by 7 gets me something close to 30. Okay, so you could hand out 30s here and realize that that gets you to 210. But maybe you're not so sure about that. And you think, well, I'll just stick with my 20s. So I'll model that one. So I hand out my 20s and I count as I go: 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. Okay, I'm at 140 so far. Still almost 100 off, but that's okay. I can go ahead and do 20s if I want again, but if I kind of do that quick math in my head of 140 plus 140, that gets me 280. That's going to be way too big. So maybe I'll cut that in half and I'll do 10s next. So I was at 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200, 210. So now I'm at 210. And if I do my mental math, or if I have to do it off to the side, 238 minus 210 gives me 28 left over. You might know your facts to be able to know that that's, if I take this number divided by 7, I'm going to be handing out 4s left because I have the 4 or the 7 slots to give it to, or I can just hand out chunks. And at this case, I might want to hand out 2s, or I might want to hand out 1s. For me, I'm going to do 2s just to make it go a little bit faster. So I'm at 210, 212, oops, wrong color. 212, 214, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, almost there. 226, 228, 230, 32, 34, 36, 38. Okay, so now I've got them all divided up. And I can count how many are in each bubble. I can pick one because they're all exactly the same. So if I take them and I add them up, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And I've got a 20 plus a 10 plus a 2 plus a 2. And I find that that gives me an answer of 34. Okay. So what that would look like if you were to do it differently, and I'll show it in a different color. If you had used that strategy we talked about at the beginning of 230 divided by 7 gave you something close to 30, you would have handed out 30s like this. And that would have gotten you to 210. Then you would have used this math that we did over here to find out you had 28 left over, and you would have handed out your 4s. This is for those of you that are getting really quick with your strategy and want to be a little more efficient. You want to start thinking about your math facts. So that way you would have it a lot quicker to find out that handing out to each group is a 30 and a 4. They each get a group of 30 and they get a group of 4. Okay, so that is the bubble method for how to solve this one. But let's take a look at that multiplication facts one that we were talking about for this bigger equation as well. Okay, so let's rewrite our equation at the top. We've got 238 divided by 7. Okay, so just like we did on the other one, you could start with 7 times 10 and do that over and over and over again. But I want to be a little bit more efficient. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my 7 times 20s that I tried before. So let's take a look at what that would look like for us. So we're going to start with our 7 times 20, and that gives us 140. And I realized when I was doing my bubbles, or you could even realize looking at this, well, if I do that again, if I do another 140, this is going to give me 280, and that's going to be too big. So I can't do 20s again. Oops. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 7 times 10, just like I kind of decided with my bubbles, and see where I get. So that gives me another 70. Now I'm going to put these together and see where I'm at. I'm going to add them up just like I've done before. So this added up together and this added up together. So 140 plus 70 gives me 0. This gives me 11, carry my 1, 210. Okay. So 7 times 30 gives me 210, which is kind of what we figured out up here with those 30s. 7 times 30 gave me 210. All right, so now I have to get the rest of the way up there. So this is where you would do your mental math off to the side. or you could draw it, or you could actually solve your math. 238 minus 210 is going to give me what left over? What do I have to find? 8 minus 0 is 8. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So I have 28 left over. So I set that up in my equation. 7 times something is going to give me that last bit of 28. Because when I put these together, this is going to give me my 238. But I want to find out what this is, okay? So for those of you that know your math facts, 7 times what gives me 28? You're correct, it's 4. So I would put my 4 in there, and now all I have to do is count up these. I had 30 sevens in that first chunk, got me 210. Now 4 more sevens gave me my last bit of 28. So I get my final answer of 34, okay? So I got my 34 sevens is my quotient or my answer to this equation. So what you want to do as you start to get into these bigger numbers, these bigger equations, you want to try to be as efficient as possible. So maybe you figure out this chunk first to start with and save yourself a step. Just like up here in our bubbles, where instead of starting with 20 and 10, I realize off the bat that I can hand out 30s. And then I do my mental math up here in the corner to figure out what's left over and do my second piece of division to make it go a little bit faster. So you can challenge yourself to be the efficient route, but if you're still struggling a little bit, try the shorter route or try the more broken up pieces so that you can keep track of where you're at and you don't get lost. So good luck with the bigger multiplication. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck, everybody.